Hi, it's Matt here from Go Green Autos. So this is my MG ZS EV. It's just over a year old, about 13 or 14 months old. And I made a video on this car looking underneath and questioning whether these have a rust problem. I did that video exactly 2 months ago, middle of February. And it's been one of the best viewed videos. This channel gets very little viewing numbers. Most videos only get viewed by the hundreds. But that video in 2 months has been viewed 28,400 times, and there was mixed comments. A lot of people said, you know, that's awful, Chinese crap, what would you expect? Wouldn't touch one of those with a barge pole. And then other people who I would trust a little bit more, saying, I'm in the trade, I'm looking under cars all the time, and it's absolutely no different to any other modern car. I'll put a link to the original video below. I'll also pop it up on the screen there so you can have a look at that if you haven't seen it before you continue watching this one. So what I'm going to do today is I've come in on a Sunday morning. I've made myself a cup of tea. It's nice and quiet here in the unit. And I'm going to apply some additional rust protection to this car. So I've bought some Bilt Hamber products. Bilt Hamber make the best anti-corrosion products. So here I've got some Dynax S50 anti-corrosion wax. That's for doing cavities. And I've got some Dynax Seam paint, I suppose, or sealant for doing the seams. I've never used these products before. In fact, I've never done anything like this on a car before. So it's not necessarily a review about these products. This video is more just to help other MG ZS EV owners, give them some ideas or maybe show them what to do if they want to add additional protection to their car. There's lots of videos on YouTube reviewing these products, particularly the spray wax. It comes with this very long tube, so you can stick it in the cavities, and at the end of the tube here, it doesn't just spray out the end, it has this plastic thing on the end which makes the product spray out in a 360-degree fashion, a bit like the brushes on the end of a chimney sweep's pole. So you can stick that in a cavity, pull it back, and it sprays all around 360-degree effect, so it covers all parts of a hidden seam. The products here, what did they cost? Well, the Dynax Seam sealant, that's quite a large tin. I don't need as much as that. I'll probably only be using a few brushfuls, but that's the smallest tin they sold. That was $16.95 including VAT. And the Dynax S50 spray, this is a huge tin. I hope that's going to be enough to do all of the cavities. I'm sure it will be. That was only $14.95 including VAT. So not a huge price to pay for completely rust proofing the underside of a vehicle. Obviously here I've got this mobile single post lift that I'm going to lift the car up and I can safely stand underneath. But if you're at home, what I would recommend is just getting two wheels of the car up on a curb or a grassy bank. That is a much safer way of lifting one side of the car up, and then you can slide underneath and work on that side, because the weight of the car is still supported on the wheels. And actually just a normal curb of 5 or 6 inches is more than enough to get underneath and give you enough working room. So what I'm going to do is look for any holes in any box sections like there, because we can see we've got a little bit of rust on that seam, and stick the nozzle through there and spray the wax in any of these holes as far as you can and pull the straw back. It's probably going to be a bit difficult to film a lot of this because I'm holding the camera in one hand. And then any seams like here, I'm going to give that a quick brush with some water and then dry it with the hot air gun, and then put the seam sealant on those seams. Seam sealant is meant to be the same sort of stuff that they use in the factory, like they've got along here. What a lot of people would do when they start a job like this is to get the pressure washer out and clean the underside. Particularly if you've got one of those patio cleaning brushes, you turn it the other way around and slide under the car and it will spray the underside of the car with water. I don't have one of those, plus it's very messy, so I'm just going to locally clean the areas I want to work on, and I think ultimately that would give you a better result anyway. So I'm going to give all that a clean, get the brush and clean along that seam, because that's a seam that I want to stick the sealant on. Even though that seam isn't rusty, I've got so much of it I might as well. Right, I've been round, I've done all the washing, and I said I was going to use the hot air gun, which I will do. I've got a cordless hot air gun, but to start with, to aid drying, I'm going to use my cordless leaf blower. This will get air in the cavities and really aid drying. As with all jobs, preparation is the key. So I'm not going to film all of this, but I'm going to spend a lot of time getting all the seams clean and dry. It does seem to be, it's just the back of these cars which is missing the seam protection. So all these welded seams around here, I'm going to use the seam sealant on. The only ones which seem to be rusty are the box section here, which is the rails holding the battery pack. Those seem to be going a little bit rusty. And then this seam here on the back of the sill, there's rust there. So yeah, I'm going to wash all around there. But if we look further along the car and to the front, it's all covered in sealant. There's just a little bit at the front there isn't, which I will put a bit on. And then looking up at the battery pack rail, the rest all seems pretty good. Just seems to be at the back. So I will continue cleaning all of these seams, blasting the air through, getting all the dirt off as much as I can. It's been some time since we've had salt on the roads, and I have driven through lots of puddles and things, trying to sort of clean the underside of the car, knowing I'm going to make this video at some point. So I'm quite happy with how this will finish up, and then when it's all dry I can start putting the product on. There are some areas there, like this seam that goes above the battery pack there. It's going to be very difficult to get to that, and you're not going to be able to get to the length because it is above the pack. So you just have to do as best you can. I can get a brush up in there and get some of it, but of course anything is going to be better than nothing. Right, and then I've got this little handheld hot air gun, which I'm just going to go all around the seams, just drying everything. As I said, preparation is key. But of course the other way to do it is just to dry through a lot of puddles, or get your pressure washer under here and then go for a long drive, get the air through it, and maybe just leave this for a few days and do it on a clean, dry day. Right, one thing to note here which I've seen on my previous video, let's just get the camera up in there, I mentioned about green bits visible, and a lot of people commented that was rust coming through. Well, now I've cleaned this, it clearly isn't. The sealant on these seams is green, so there is something in there. So that isn't rust after all. And the fact that there is a sealant in there, even though some of these sills have a little bit of corrosion on the side, which not those ones, but some of these others, maybe isn't such a bad thing, because underneath there is sealant in the seam. I'm going to put some sealant all along that seam. I can't see any sealant squirting through, but as I said, while I've got that huge tin of sealant, I might as well slap it on where I can. I think I'll do the seam sealant first, because the seam's external and they're all drier than the box sections at the moment, so I'll give them another half an hour or so to dry. So I've got an old paintbrush here. I did buy a 12mm paintbrush as well, which I might trim the bristles down and make it a bit stiffer, but anyway, I'll use my old brush to start with. So this stuff, you just brush it on. There it is. It's manky old stuff, but anyway, this is the grey one. You can put it on quite thin, so yes, quite thick old stuff. So as I said, I'm probably going to struggle to film all of this, but this is as good as the manufacturer's stuff. So yeah, I'm going to go round and just give all the seams a good treatment. The nice thing is this stuff doesn't drip, as you can see, so you're not going to get too messy doing it, and it's quite satisfying. Right, I'm doing this left-handed, so I'm making a right pig's ear of it, so I need to put the camera down and use my right hand. But anyway, you get the gist, so I'm going to carry on doing this without filming. So it's not the easiest stuff to put on, but I think the way to do it is to put it on thin, brush it into the seam and get as much as you can in the seam, but really thin, let it dry and then go over and do a second coat. It dries in about 10-15 minutes. But I've done around the suspension mountings, all around the brackets. The main ones is these ones, and that seam there. So yeah, it's all got a bit of sealant on and around the battery rail there. But again, done any untreated seams. You know, it's difficult stuff to make look good, but it doesn't matter, because within a few days this will be absolutely plastered in mud, and it doesn't really matter what it looks like. And indeed, the factory stuff hangs down and looks a mess anyway. It doesn't really matter at all. I actually used a surprising amount. It's not quite, I suppose, nearly a quarter of a tin, not quite a quarter of a tin. But the brush I'm just going to chuck away there now. There's absolutely no point trying to clean that and reuse that. And just state the obvious, you obviously don't want to seal up any holes or any larger gaps, because that's allowing obviously water to drain out, but also allowing air to blow through any cavities, which again keeps it dry and stops it from rotting as well. So only do the welded seams, leave all the gaps open. So that's the seams done. So as I said, it's all on the back. I've done around the back here above the battery pack, so that's sort of under the back seats. The seam at the top, the seam at the bottom, that's quite difficult to get to, so you're not going to be able to do all of that. Around the top of the suspensions, all these seams on the back subframe, as it were, that aren't sealed. And then this seam here seems to be missing sealant, and the top of the rail that holds the battery pack, it's only the back one. All the rest further along have sealant on. Again, this side, just that top mounting post and then that seam there. And then at the front's all pretty good. I've just done this bit here. I started doing a bit there, but I gave up on that. But yeah, just that seam either side doesn't have any sealant. The rest is all fine. So now for the cavity wax. Never done this before. Obviously the key things you're going to want to do is probably these rails and anywhere in the sills that you can get to. There are going to be places where you might have to remove a rubber bung. Well, there's a rubber bung there, but you're not going to need to remove that because there's plenty of other holes along. But yeah, I'm going to do these rails and do a few places in the back. But by the looks of it, this tin is going to last well. I know I'm not going to need any more. And looking at the length of this tube, I'll be able to get in here, get in somewhere in the middle, and then at the end, and I'll have the whole length of the car done. So it's probably going to be difficult to film this because I will need two hands, but you know, it's straightforward. You just push this tube in as far as you can, squirt the wax and pull it back to get a nice even coating. So let's just do this little bit here. If I can hook that in one-handed. Right, here it goes. There we can see the wax running out there. Probably not a good idea doing that while the sealant still isn't dry. So yeah, mistake number one. Probably I'll leave this for half an hour or so and let that sealant dry properly before I start doing this. As you can see, this stuff is very runny. It's dripping down there on the concrete. So this is going to get in all those seams and give it some rust protection. Obviously gravity is going to pull it all down. So yeah, I think this will be quite a nice job. It might be worth, I might lay some newspaper or cardboard down on the concrete just to catch all the drips. Right, that's done. It's quite a messy job because you're holding this tube, so maybe you should be wearing gloves ideally, but anyway. And I've poked it in every single little hole, so all of the cavities has got wax in, and you can poke it in every little angle, give it a quick spurt. So yeah, I know all of this is treated. That down there, the length of the battery rails, all round the front, I've done everywhere, and it really is quite satisfying again. So all the vehicle is treated, and I've probably used about half the tin. So yeah, very simple and quick job, and you can just poke it in every single little hole you can find and just give it a little squirt, and you just know that it's all treated. And of course it starts running out when there's plenty in there.